Welcome to Fans Fight Back on the Pitch Boxing app. Myself, Martin Theobald, joined by James Sunderland. How are you, James?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. We're going to be cruising through this with all the awkwardness of Adam Smith at a press conference, which we'll come on to later because it was absolutely amazing. We might be getting joined by Jamie Spate. He may or may not jump in halfway through, so we shall see. But yeah, like we've just got loads of stuff in the boxing world to catch up on. I've got a vague list, but I'm not very good at sticking to it. But we were just discussing then about undisputed champions, oddly enough, and Devin Haney became one at the weekend. I think you just said off camera, Devin Haney versus Kambosos was for undisputed, but it wouldn't have mattered if it wasn't. I'm with you. Like that idea of undisputed, we wanted it for so long, and now so many of them are happening at the same time that it almost loses its meaning.
Yeah, I think it is like we were saying there. I think it's got to be less about there's that many belts. It's who is the man in the division, and I know like you hear people like, it's the biggest sort of bullshit I've ever heard from this. When Fury used to go on about being the lineal champion, but for me that was you beat the man who beat the men, essentially. Like, you know, it's that it doesn't matter. So for example, if you think of like you're talking about Devin Haney, I think if you follow that back, Lomachenko was the man, Lopez beat him, so he becomes the man. Kambosos beats him, he becomes. So that's the way it should be. Not about the belts, in my opinion. It's who is the top dog in that division. And yeah, like if Inoue, what does he have to gain by beating Paul Butler other than a belt?
Yeah, I think we as fans all gauge an opinion, and it may not, you know, before Fury beat Wilder 3 times, you may have argued Fury was the best, you may have argued AJ was the best, you may have argued Wilder was the best, but you can all form an opinion as to who the man in the division is. Based upon what you see, and I think it'd be hard to argue against Fury being the man in the heavyweight division. And right now, it'd be hard to argue against Haney. He doesn't need all those belts. He didn't need all those belts. But as you say, Kambosos beat Lopez. Lopez had beaten Lomachenko. You can almost build your own lineage. And I know that triangulation argument doesn't work across the board. Like, just because they beat them doesn't mean that they'll beat them. But right now, Haney is undisputed, I think, as much as belts amongst fans.
Yeah. But I don't think he's the best I don't think he's the best in the division. I think I'd still probably go with Lomachenko, but the best and who wins, who would win, that sort of thing. That's, you know, hypothetical, isn't it? It doesn't matter. It's who is the man in that division. That's what it comes down to for me. And even go back a period in the welterweight period. There were a time where for me, Keith Thurman was the man in the welterweight division because of who he would be. But at no point would I have backed Spence. I would never have backed him over the likes of Spence, those sorts of people. But at a point, he was the man in the division because he'd done the work. You know, does that make sense?
It does. And for me, I would still say the best lightweight there is Gervonta Davis.
Yeah,
I'd pick Gervonta to beat every single one of them, but he hasn't got the belts to prove it.
But you wouldn't say he's the man in the division, would you? You can't say he's the man, but in your opinion, you can say he's the best.
Devin Haney is without a doubt the man in the division, but I would pick Tank Davis to wipe out Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
I think him and Kambosos would be the most fun fight in the whole division possible.
Yeah.
Him versus Lomachenko is probably the most intriguing fight in terms of how those styles would gel. But him versus Haney probably wouldn't be that much fun.
No.
I think that's the closest fight out of all of them, though. I think Tank Davis hasn't beaten the best people, hasn't fought the best people, but I'd still favour him probably over everyone in the division if they all, you know. But
yeah, I think now you say that, I think Haney, in my opinion, has shown elements of vulnerability. It looks like he can be hurt, like he can be caught. It's like he slows down a bit when he gets caught. And you think like the Linares fight to a degree. And if you were to pick a style to probably beat someone like Tank, you probably would go for somebody like Haney, who's got the jab and can box and stick and move a little bit. So yeah, I think that's a fair comment. But I don't know. Again, I look back and I know we're probably going to talk about like the AJ thing and everything, but when you talk about this now, and I think I think it's mad that people were saying so and so, like for example, AJ is the best heavyweight because he's got 3 belts, rather than looking at who he actually beat for those belts. But it's like the belts had more significant than opponents, which is mental.
If you track that back, the genesis of that argument always came from Hearn, and it always came from if AJ was going to fight Fury, or Wilder, what would the percentage purse splits be? We were always told it should be in AJ's favour because of the fact that he holds X number of belts, and Fury or Wilder only held a lesser number. Does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. Paul Butler holds the 1 belt that Inoue doesn't hold. There's no debate. If that fight happened next week, there's no debate about who wins it. But
you'd rather see, if someone said to me now, do you want to see, and again, I know it's not necessarily as relevant as such, but would you rather see Paul Butler beat Inoue for all the belts, or would you rather see, in fact, Casimiro, who lost it outside of the ring, beat Inoue, who brings nothing to the table? I would much rather see Casimiro beat Inoue because it's just a better fight. But the belt, it doesn't have, that undisputed tag to it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would rather watch Butler versus Casimiro, and I know they tried to make it. And there's no Butler that he never had that fight. But I'd rather see that than Butler versus Inoue because, with all due respect to Paul Butler, we know the outcome to that fight already. And I don't know, it's almost just, it feels a little bit like Joe Gallagher, Paul Butler kind of talking it up so that they raise the price for it.
Yeah.
Do they really want it? I can't blame them if they didn't.
It's literally like, when, I joke with you, didn't I, saying Paul Butler should turn up in a FedEx uniform. Like Charles Martin basically, guaranteed delivery of that belt to AJ, and he basically sold it. That's what this feels like. It feels like I am almost a bit, to a degree, like probably in a more competitive fight. But as soon as Kiko Martinez beat Kid Galahad, that belt is for sale to the highest bidder. That's what it feels like with this. It's like, right, you want this because this undisputed tag, we're selling it.
It feels a little bit like Monopoly when you've got one of the properties and somebody needs the other 2. Also, somebody has the other 2, and you can kind of name your price for holding on to it. That's what it feels a little bit like. Now, I don't blame Paul Butler, Joe Gallagher, any of them. They won that belt. They won it fairly and squarely. Casimiro
they did their job. Yeah,
they did their job. And they've got every right to demand all the money in the world because they should demand all the money in the world because that is a ridiculously difficult fight that you're going into a very small percentage chance of winning.
Agreed.
So, I mean, Inoue, how good was that performance?
It's just frightening. I've again briefly talking before this, it's almost too good to be true, isn't it? When you've got someone that's that little, that quick, that good, that well balanced, and punches like a monster. I don't know. Again, I've just been a boxing fan for probably too long, but I've said to you, I'm waiting for maybe spreadsheets to go wrong. That's how much it seems too good to be true. How can he be flying? Like, he's going through the weight divisions and starching people.
It does feel too good to be true. I really want it to be true. I love him watching it. How high do you reckon he could go weight-wise, given what we're seeing out of him?
He's at bantam at the minute, isn't he?
I couldn't tell you who the top super bantams in the world are right now, if I'm honest. I'm not that.
It's Fulton, isn't it? No, Steph. Is it Fulton? He beat Danny Roman at the week. I could be completely wrong.
Didn't he, Stephen Fulton? But,
I think he's super bantam, but I'm not sure.
Anyone around those weight divisions, just bundle them all together for me.
I could maybe see him feather. Could maybe see him going up to featherweight if he's bantam now. But he's gone. Has he gone? Did he go fly, super fly, bantam, So he's gone. I think that's the way he's gone. I think he may have skipped to weight division actually as well. I'm not sure, but I could see him maybe moving up 2 more weight divisions, super bantam, and then. But he'll basically go until he loses. I think that will be the experiment. It will be how high can you go. There'll become a point where those advantages should diminish, and they shouldn't they?
In theory.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 2 things on it. One, there's too many little weights. I can't get down with it. Like when you work in flyweight, super flyweight, bantamweight, there's about £3 between each of them. They need to just bundle some of them together. And, you know, you go from welterweight at 147 to like middle at 154, £7. I know they're only smaller guys, and so like those percentage differences, you know, it works out kind of equitable across the board. But there's too many. I can't buy into it, if I'm honest. It's just bundle fly and super fly.
This is agree completely. But if you would say to me, make a fight in those weight divisions, I couldn't. I think it's imagine something like Rung Vasavi Inoue, like or Chocolatito via Inoue. I don't really care about those weight divisions, but I would watch that. That would be. Yeah,
and you can't tell me those £3 stop those fights being made. I'm not having it.
No,
just make them like bundle those weight divisions together, anywhere from fly all the way up to bantamweight. Just call it like Inoue weights, and everyone's got to fight Inoue to win a belt.
Stick Sonny Edwards in the end. There we go.
Sonny Edwards was giving it big licks about fighting Paul Butler, wasn't he? Giving it they're both on Probellum, and he said, "Oh, I might jump up 2 weight divisions and I might go up and fight Paul Butler." But nah, bollocks to that. Don't fight Inoue. I'm up for seeing that. Go on, Sonny.
Yeah, no, I would pay to watch that because, I'm not saying anything in case this gets clipped up. I don't want to know.
I'll say it. We'll crowdfund it. I'll crowdfund it.
I blocked Sonny Edwards on Twitter. Like I've just blocked him. He's never said anything bad to me, and I've never said anything to him. But I just look at some of the stuff he puts out and think, I don't need to see that. Like it's horrendous. So he's just a savage on Twitter.
I agree, and then you get lots of like people that just suck up to him because he's Sonny Edwards, and I think, no, I get he gets it in return, and like, it's not to say he does it out of the blue at anyone, but I'm not a fan of it particularly.
No, I think it oversteps the mark for me a bit too much.
And then people wonder, you know, you see boxers complain about the lack of funding, lack of money, lack of sponsorship in the sport. Don't have world champions going around mugging off fans.
Yeah,
that's one way to avoid that scenario. One of my pet hates. Cordina, what a punch that was to take out a Gower.
Yeah, that was. I didn't watch it at the time. I watched it back, and fair play. That's one of those fights where I think nobody saw. If you predicted a Cordina stoppage, you did predict it in that way. Like just a 1 punch absolute icing. It was unbelievable, and I remember. Didn't he fight? He fought someone at fight camp, and he iced them as well. And I remember thinking, I didn't think Cordina could whack. Like he'd gone the rounds up more of a boxer, and I thought, maybe he's got a bit of something. And then his next fight, I think he went the rounds again.
Yep.
Good Lord, like. And what I did love to see as well is Shakur Stevenson giving him the respect as well. I thought that was class. I thought that was a touch of class on his behalf because.
Apart from he called him English.
Well, he can be English when he punches like that. Let's be honest.
Well, I did think it was brilliant from Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah.
And then the fact he laughed about it afterwards about England and Wales being different countries. Good on him.
No, he's British. He's British when he punches like that. 100%.
It's got Andy Murray syndrome.
Yeah.
I thought it was phenomenal. Like such an incredible performance. The only caveat I'd put against it, the only asterisk I put against it, and I said this beforehand to a friend of mine who's Welsh, Dave Evans, who's a whip around boxing, people around boxing that day.
Yeah, I remember him. They were on one of the pods before with Steve, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Great guys, Dave. But he'd asked me beforehand about, do I know how good a Gower is? And I said, nope. I haven't got a clue. I genuinely haven't got a clue. I know he's talked about, but I couldn't tell you anything about him. Couldn't tell you who his best win was. Never seen him fight. It felt a little bit like that Kanju situation with Lee Wood, whereby you bring over a world champion, you big him up, that makes people assume that they're really,
Yeah.
really good. And it turns out they get walloped in a couple of rounds. Cantu lasts a lot longer, obviously. I'm not taking anything away from Cordina to do his job, and he did it. But I don't know, and I didn't know anything about Agawa beforehand.
No, I think that's fair, and I think with Cordina, I don't think a fight with someone like Zelfa Barrett helps either, because even then, you don't really know where he's at on the world level scene. But you think they're going to milk that belt a bit, try and keep it in house. But yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think Agawa, it was like you're just going off what you hear, don't you, rather than actually more of an ear test than an eye test, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't Shakur Stevenson that he beat. It
exactly.
Was a guy that I say genuinely, I've never seen him fight. I'm too casual to have spent my time, researching Agawa, and but I don't want to take anything away from Cordina because that was a cracking punch. But yeah, you've then got like Archie Sharp, haven't you? Like Archie Sharp's Shakur Stevenson's mandatory. I need to see Archie Sharp against Zelfa Barrett. I don't need to see Archie Sharp against Cordina or Shakur Stevenson.
Is Sharp the same way as Kakachi? I think Kakachi's the same way, isn't it?
He is, yeah.
Make that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I despise these WBO mandatory scenarios because you end up with Danny Dignam going out to Vegas getting battered in the round.
It's dangerous. He's just and I know we spoke about this on podcast before. I'm assuming he's still some form of links with Frank Warren. I know he was, but it screams of Frank Warren getting someone through some absolute ridiculous, WBO intercontinental, like getting him to number one and then slinging him in, like Liam Walsh. Who else did he do it with? He's done it quite a few times, to a degree with Dubois. Just slinging him in.
He did it with
yeah.
To be fair, that kind of nearly worked out with the Kovalev fight, but I think Sharp is now with Probellum because he's on some small hall show up in Leeds. Did you see this?
I think I did. Who else? Is there someone else that's a reasonable name?
Ahara Davis.
That's it, yeah.
Ahara Davis.
That's mad. Archie
Sharp are on the undercard of Bates up in Leeds.
That's mad. That's absolutely mad.
Jack Bateson. It's a bizarre situation.
The Probellum stuff seems to be a bit weird because obviously Fight Disciples, I don't mind their pod. I know they did get a bit of stick, but I think it's decent enough. It's a good listen. And they alluded to something saying, why aren't Sky showing something? And they said it's because of who's broadcasting it. And I thought, I wouldn't do that's the Inoue thing because it's Top Rank, isn't it? They've normally. Yeah. And I noticed it was Probellum, but they used to really plug Probellum when they was there, and since obviously this no criminal convictions stuff's come out against who, it seems to have gone a bit weird. But
yeah, well, Fight Disciples were part of the talent team of Probellum, weren't they? And yeah, they're all right. I don't mind them actually. Adam and Nick, their shows are fairly decent. I
agree.
But yeah, I think Donaire is linked to Probellum, isn't he? Which would be why Sky never picked it up. And then you end up with these Probellum fighters that were on Eurosport, and then Eurosport pulled the plug. It's all very, very messy, and you end up with Archie Sharp, the mandatory to Shakur Stevenson, fighting on the undercard of a Jack Bateson fight in Leeds.
That's what I feel for Jack. I feel for Jack Cattrall. If this goes south, because after obviously what happened with Taylor, he signed with Probellum, and then not long after that, all this comes out, and then I feel for the lad. That is horrendous.
Did Regis Prograis sign with Probellum?
I think he just asked McKenna, just as you do. I think that,
I know he fought on their card. I don't know if he signed with him or not, but I saw Jack Cattrall and Prograis going back and forth on Twitter.
Yeah, and even Teofimo Lopez, he was going back and forth with him as well. He seems to be after the big fights, and I think fair play.
Well,
I think
you've got to wonder as well whether it's almost a case of I'm with Probellum. Can somebody kind of
do us a favor,
on a card somewhere while we sort all this other stuff out? It does feel a little bit like that. Moving on. AJ talked today that he's moved to DAZN. I got a bit of a notification about this yesterday. saying that he's gone from Sky.
Yeah.
It kind of gets put out today that he's gone from Sky and he's going to DAZN. Adam Smith does a couple of interviews saying, whoa, no, it's not decided.
Yeah.
It's like it's still up in the air. What do you reckon?
Again, I probably come across more negative with AJ than I just don't buy into all the hype. I prefer to. As a fan, I'm worried. I would say I think from two perspectives. From AJ perspective, you're going into a career-defining fight, and everything around you that was at one point so secure and made you what you were is changing and spinning. And for me, I would look at the Ruiz fight and think, the one time you have been slightly out of your comfort zone, it went properly tits up. So if you're changing trainer, you know, if your broadcaster's changing, I don't know how much impact that has on behind the scenes. I really don't know, but you would suspect that it's something a bit different. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, you know, conflicting statements. Like, I don't like the fact that he's not going out. If you're training, if you're changing trainer, you go to your trainer because you want to try something new. You don't bring your trainer to you and stay in your comfort zones if you want to bring out this dog. So from that side of things, I think it's a concern. And for DAZN, I think it's a bit of a concern. I don't know, a bit like Jose signing Matic for Roma, isn't it? You know, you got him on the way up and now you're trying to get him on the way down because that the AJ trajectory's gone like that. And it's only going to go down for me. I don't see how he beats Usyk. I do not think. I think he's got a puncher's chance. That is all I give him against AJ. And I know that sounds like a daft statement.
Wild.
But
I love
you
it.
You watch Usyk AJ back, right? He didn't have a go, did he? Really? I don't think he ever went through the gears and had a go. And at the end, he looks like he's in labour. And Usyk is fine, going around shaking hands, praying, doing everything that he needs to do. That is not a man that has anything left to give. So if he goes for it, he's done. So if he goes for it, he has to get him out. I don't think he beats. So I think DAZN pumping money into the AJ brand when I think it's on the way down now is a sign of desperation and a massive, massive risk, I think.
I agree. I think AJ's done phenomenally well out of it in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you look at what there is, which is DAZN tried to buy BT Sport, they failed. Yep. BT Sport are going to merge with Discovery Group, which is Eurosport. So they're going to end up with a platform that holds the Olympics, it holds Premier League football rights, it holds boxing, it will hold all these other things. And DAZN is still left on the outside, just kind of stuck, only having boxing plus a few kind of peripheral sports. Therefore, the one thing they need, that talisman, that headline act, they can go for AJ. But for AJ, his value is diminishing, as you said. It is diminishing in the fact that
it's a sliding doors, isn't it? This is a sliding doors moment for his career because there's no rematch after this. It's like he's then beltless properly for the first time since Dylan White. Yeah. And he's going to be stuck in that scenario if he loses, where he doesn't have any belts, but his brand value will always be there. It'll always be there. But does he need it? Because he's going to be a multi-millionaire. I don't know if there's going to be that drive and desire to keep going. But he's had Sky Sports they don't need him. They lose. I was trying to kind of articulate. Sorry, they lose revenue. Yeah.
They don't necessarily lose product because it's not like their Sky boxers are going to be on the undercard of an AJ fight because they won't. It'll be Matchroom fighters on the undercard of an AJ fight. If it was that he was bringing through boxers, so the ones that will be on the Sky platform as standard, then you can see that there is a value in having him on Sky. But given that he won't, and given that he'll only be bringing through the Matchroom stable, he won't be fighting on Sky. All that Sky are essentially losing is revenue, which I know is what they want. But that revenue is not going to be there forever because the more that his brand value diminishes, the less the revenue is going to be. And so actually, DAZN need him an awful lot more than Sky do because they need that headline act. Sky are always going to have the Premier League rights. Sky are always going to have certain events and high value kind of ticket items that fans tune in for. DAZN don't, and they need AJ, and so you kind of suspect he can go, well, I'll come to you, but you've got to really make it worth my time.
It is, and it's what version, out of curiosity, what version of Usyk do you think is going to turn up for this fight? Do you think one that's head's not in the right place, isn't 100%, AJ has more of a chance, or do you see it as Usyk where he's better from being a heavyweight from that win, and also wants to make a statement because of everything that's going on? Because I think that could be significant too. I'm not sure it'll be able to go on.
When you look at what else has gone on, and all I can do is compare it to, say, the Ukrainian football team, for instance. You know, their football, and I know Usyk was out there on the front line for a little bit, but then he's taken himself out of that and gone to training camp. Fair enough, that's his job. I think that must make, I think he'll be of that mindset that just makes him more determined to be great. And I think he will be more determined than ever to fuck up AJ.
I think he stops him. I think he gets stopped. I think no matter what happens, I remember Terry talking about it so many times, and it stuck with me on the old podcast he used to do. Like almost that well, that reservoir of sort of that you can go to. You can only go to a well so many times, and I think whatever happens, I don't think AJ will be the same after this fight. I think if he is going to win, he's going to have to go to such a dark place of exhaustion, fatigue. He'll leave the ring a lesser man, and I think
it's not like he's going to do like Cordina did at the weekend. He's not just going to one punch walk through Usyk, because when was the last time Joshua one punch walked through anyone?
Yep.
Zambano Love, maybe.
Yeah, it was. No, it is. And people say Dylan White, but Dylan White was a novice and exhausted. I think Usyk too clever. He could. I completely see a situation where maybe he catches him, Usyk goes down, but I think Usyk's clever enough to fiddle his way and get himself out of trouble. And I just, other than a big shot, like for example, say AJ comes to take him out, I think he's got 4 to 6 rounds to do it. I think after 6 rounds, I think AJ, the fatigue kicks in for AJ, and I think if you don't get it done, I do think he gets stopped.
And it's as you said at the beginning, he's brought on Robert Guerrero to be his
Garcia. Is it Garcia?
Guerrero, sorry, Jesus, that'd be an intriguing one. Garcia to come in and train him, but he's bringing him over to the UK, which is an odd move.
And if he needs that dog, how are you going to get that in Saudi Arabia? You'd think that he'd need that Wembley. That for me, I think the best place for this fight would be the O2. Yeah, you know, really make it a proper, a little bit. Yeah. And
York
really
Hall.
Get Stormzy back on the ring walk. Really,
York Hall, 1,000 people.
But I just think, you know, he doesn't. Maybe that dog's not there. Maybe he needs to be brought out of him, and I think Saudi Arabia people clapping. You know.
No, I agree. And
I hope he wins, and I want to be clear. I hope AJ wins, and I'd be praying he wins for British boxing, because I think it'd be massive. But I think I'm going to get this will get clipped up. I said this with a Tyson Fury fight. Luckily that went all right, but I think he gets stopped. I don't see how he wins other than a lucky punch.
I kind of agree. I think bringing Garcia over to the UK smacks of comfort to me.
Brand AJ.
Yeah, it does. It does a little bit. If he went and took himself away from, you know, the home comforts, then I'd be more on board with his chance of winning. While we're in the heavyweights, Chisora versus Pulev, the fight you've been waiting for. Sorry, Chisora Pulev 2.
Genuinely, when I saw that, not even joking, and I think I saw you put something, but you were probably taking the piss. I genuinely thought, what's the main event? And I was being deadly serious. Like, which card's this going on? Like, it's, again, you go back to Chisora Parker, when me, you and Andy did, I think it was probably the first one of this, and we were saying, if Hearn's going to try and make the level of card that he's suggesting, he doesn't have the stable to do it. And what? It's just horrendous. Like, what? This someone's getting a hand injury. I'm telling you now, this ain't happening. This unless does Chisora actually sell books? I know he's all this stuff. Are people actually going to go and see it? It's horrendous.
No, he doesn't. Not to O2 levels of selling out venues by himself. Can you remember the last Chisora win? I can't. Was it Takam?
Takam. I'm sure. Did he win one after that? He got asked by Dylan.
I don't know.
He stunk the place out against the Southpaw, didn't he? When Dave Allen did Lucas Brown. I'll Google it. I'll get his box record.
Oh, the bald-headed fella.
I don't know.
I can't remember. But I was having this conversation the other day with somebody. Again,
David Price, I guess. Maybe it's David Price.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
It is David Price.
I forgot that fight even happened.
Yeah, he went Gashi, Spilker, David Price, and then
yeah. So at this point in time, I don't need to see Chisora Pulev as the headline act at the O2. It's not good enough. Like, it kind of stinks of the fact that there's not enough talent. And there's too many channels in the UK that aren't working together. There are too many stables that aren't working together. Therefore, you can't make the most meaningful fights out of the whole pool of talent in the UK. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. Like, it's not a very good fight, and I don't care about. I wouldn't mind seeing Chisora versus Fabio Wardley. Let's just find out how good Wardley is. He's about British level. I wouldn't even mind seeing Chisora against Daniel Dubois. He's about British level. We saw him get beaten by Joyce. Let's find out if he can take on an older. I don't need to see him against Pulev. I didn't care about the first fight. I don't care about this fight. Garbage.
It's just, I don't understand. Derek Chisora must have something on Eddie Hearn to keep getting these fights. Like, again, and I think I said this last time Chisora fought, and I'm probably going on the soft side of boxing now, to be honest. I start to feel uncomfortable with it, but there becomes a point where the sport has a duty of care to someone like Derek Chisora. At his age, at this weight, look at the Joseph Parker thing. He got to the point where he couldn't even be bothered defending himself, so he just went and stood in the corner. And you're putting that man in again. There's a duty of care, I think, and no. If they want to go and earn their money, let them go elsewhere and do it, but don't be doing it under a British Boxing Board, peddling this as elite level boxing and competitive and meaningful sport, because what is this? Like, it's just crap.
It doesn't do an awful lot for me. I'm not looking forward to it, I suppose, what it comes down to. If you're not looking forward to it, then it's not good enough, would be my view.
Agree. It's crap.
There we go. Right, that's it. That's the boxing world wrapped up for the week. And then we'll catch up in a couple of weeks. And I'm trying to think what big things are coming up, but there's nothing particularly on the horizon. But
I can't even remember. But I'm a bit like
its own content.
Yeah, I think I'm like, it just seems to be diluting itself at the minute, boxing. It just seems to be like, I don't know. I just don't know if there's too much of it, but it's all of a similar level, I think.
Yeah, too much of it, and it's too diluted, and it needs to be less of it, but a higher quality and a better standard of content, is my view. But
we're never happy, are we, boxing fans? We're never happy.
In the meantime, boxing doesn't mad shit anyway, so there's always stuff to talk about. Right, I shall leave you to it, James. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
No worries, mate. I'll speak to you again soon.
Take care. Thank you very much.